What is happening, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Ty behind the camera, and sitting in front of us is the refreshed 2024 Kia Seltos. Now this one happens to be painted in the beautiful ocean blue with the accented white roof, and is in the S trim level with all-wheel drive, and we have a very nice black cloth interior. So a little bit of an overview of this video before we get into the features. We're going to check out the exterior first, then we'll pop the hood. We'll see what powers these Seltos, because there are a few different engine options as of 2024. Then we will pop the trunk. We'll see how much room we're working with back there. And then we'll get into the rear seats and finally the front seats, and we'll kind of detail all the features in between. But you're going to want to make sure to stay tuned to the end of the video, because I'm going to strap this GoPro to my head and we're going to take this Kia Seltos for a test drive, and I'll kind of detail how it drives. First things first, up front, our headlight bulbs are powered by projector halogens for the high and low beams, but we do have some pretty nice looking daytime running lights that kind of go from the bottom and up in between, and it also follows into the grille, so the LED lights kind of continue up until this portion of the grille, so pretty nice styling cue. We also have some pretty nice halogen fog lamps down below, and a nice amount of bright work on the S trim, which is kind of what differentiates it from the basic LX trim. So we have nice bright work around the grille and also a little bit down below with your lower fascia. Nice short hood to aid the visibility up front, and some pretty cool creases right there. And if we take a look down here, we have some pretty nice sort of matte gray painted wheels. There's almost a little bit of metallic in the paint on the wheels too, but they are measuring up at 17 inches, and our tires measure 215/55. So pretty nice looking wheels. Pay note to the nice black cladding that surround the wheels and the bottom of the doors. That will kind of reduce rock chipping and whatnot. We have white mirrors that go along with the white accented roof, which is pretty cool looking. You also have turn signal indicators on the mirror and the blind spot warning, which is very nice. You also have smart key entry on the front two door handles, so you just tap the button to lock or unlock. And then let's take a look at the window sticker real quick. Couple of very small odds and ends added, and in addition to the S trim level, so we have wheel locks, cargo tray, all that good stuff, and a total sticker price for this vehicle of $28,645, so not bad at all. Taking a look back here, you can really see the extent of the white accented roof, and I think it looks pretty good as a contrast to the deep ocean blue color. We have the fuel filler door on the driver's side. If we wrap around to the rear, we have partial LED tail lamps, so you can see that the turn signals on, brake lights, all that good stuff. Looks very nice when it's illuminated, and very reminiscent of the front. The LEDs continue to almost all the way in the center, butting up against the Kia badging. We also have the Seltos badging right on this side, and a little 4X badging telling us that it is an all-wheel drive version. Pretty nice lower accents with the reversing lighting down here too, and some gloss black, and also some more bright work on the bottom. We of course have the reversing camera right next to the trunk release. And of course we are in the midst of pollen season, so this car is slightly dirty. I do apologize about that, but it is next to impossible keeping our cars from looking green. What do you guys think of the styling on the Kia Seltos? I think this has actually been a very nice update for the Seltos. Let me know in the comments. Alright, so underneath the hood of the Seltos, we have two pretty different engine options. Both are 4 cylinders. That's pretty much where the differences start. So we have in the LX, S, and EX trim, which means this car is included, has a 2-liter inline 4, produces 146 horsepower, 132 pound-feet of torque. That is mated to a continuously variable transmission, and you could choose between front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. In the X-Line and SX trim levels, however, you get a 1.6-liter turbocharged inline 4. That's good for 195 horsepower and 195 pound-feet of torque. So I bet you that motor scoots this car along pretty nicely. And that will come hooked up to a more conventional 8-speed automatic with all-wheel drive only. So pretty nice engine bay here, very small engine cover. You still have your oil dipstick, and very serviceable if you would like to do your own oil changes and whatnot to the car. Lots of sound deadening material too under the hood, pay note to that, and we also have a prop that gets held up for the hood right there. Okay, so the cargo area. We can gain access to the cargo area right below the A in Kia, right next to the backup camera as well. And once that pops open, it's really just as simple as a press of the button and a slight tug on the tailgate, and it pops right open for you. But take a look at that, nice wide open cargo area for you. You can even fold the seats down in a 60-40 fashion, and I'll show you how in just a minute. We have a nice carpeted mat back here and little storage extensions to either side, and you also have a nice light over there and grocery bag hanger over there. Below our cargo floor, we also have a spare tire, so that's pretty nice. Once we're done in our cargo area, we have a nice big handle. Almost as easy as opening the trunk it is to close it. Okay, so working our way into the back seats, we have a nice wide opening from the rear door. Nice amount of gloss black trim that leads into a metallic handle. We have 6 speakers inside this particular Seltos, and you can upgrade to 8 Bose speakers once you step up to the SX trim. But we do have a good amount of storage back here. So you have a nice large bottle holder down at the bottom and a bit of storage right up here with some stitching. Materials are kind of hard to the touch up here, but where it counts, where your arm is going to rest, is nice and soft. Taking a look inside, we have a mostly cloth interior, but it is kind of accented by this this faux leather at the side with some stitching. The cloth has a pretty cool design pattern to it. As you can see, the rear seats almost act like a bucket seat, kind of hugging you in a bit. Now you can fold down the rear seats with this handle, so you just fold it forward like so. It'll bring the seat belt along with it, so you don't have to fumble with that when you're going back up. And the larger portion of the 60-40 folds down on the driver's side, so that way you can get a good combination of storage space and human space, if you will. One more thing back here that you could fold down is the armrest. So we can fold that down. We have a couple of cup holders. And I'll hop in just to show you how much legroom there is back here. Now I am 5'10", and I adjusted the front seat to a normal, comfortable position for myself. And take a look at that. I still have a couple of inches left. I'd say a good 2 or 3 inches of legroom. Also has a nice amount of recline back here too, so it's definitely a very comfortable seating position. Very small drivetrain hump in the center too, so if you had to fit a third person in the center for a small amount of time, you'd have no problem doing that. And you do have some rear air vents with 2 USB-C chargers, so very nice. You have some nice quarter windows back here to aid in your visibility. And up here we have some LED illumination and grab handles. Alrighty, so here we are at the main event, the driver's door. A little bit nicer appointed up here, so we have a little bit softer materials up top and then very soft leatherette down here, just like out back. More gloss black up here with this pretty nicely shaped speaker grill too. That's pretty cool. Take a look at the shape of the speaker grills in this car. Pretty nice touch. We have some more storage down below and a bit more right up here. We have all of our mirror adjustments, lock unlock controls, all of your window adjustments, and the rear child lockout for the window. On the left of the dash, we have a pretty cool looking air vent and some more gloss black trim. We have a gauge dimmer right over here, as well as the auto start stop. We can turn that on and off, as well as the traction control. Right next to that is the release for the tilt telescoping steering wheel. If we sink down a little bit, you can see your pedals and your hood release right over here. Pretty nice looking driver's seat, and it is 6-way manually adjusting. So again, we have that same combination of leatherette and cloth. So you can see we have the height adjustment right here, the backrest adjustment, and the back and forth is right down here with that bar. So here's the key fob for the Seltos. Pretty traditional Kia key fob, but they have a pretty cool design to them. You have the Kia emblem right there with the remote start on the face of the key. And then you also have the lock unlock panic alarm, and then you also have a little release to get the physical key outside of the fob, in case you need it. You have the push button start right behind the steering wheel. And a very attractive looking interior, especially at this price point. But let's take a look at this steering wheel, where it is completely leather wrapped and you have some stitching on the inside. Now kind of all of your audio adjustments over here, including your Bluetooth telephone controls and your voice commands. You also have the mode for your radio, and then also a programmable button. Up and down for your different radio stations, and then up and down over here for your audio volume. Across the airbag cover, we have a myriad of different controls for your adaptive cruise control. So this up here will set it, and then we also have the pause for the cruise control, and then the up and down for your speeds. It also is an adaptive cruise control, so you can adjust the distances and whatnot. Over here are all of your controls for the digital screen, and then at the bottom we have our lane keeping assist. We can turn that on and off with a click of that button right there. Behind the steering wheel we have a couple of stalks, this one for your turn signals, all of your lighting control, and your fog lamps as well. And then over to the other side we have our front and rear wipers. Now one thing I wanted to point out is the gauges in this vehicle are in direct sunlight, and they are fully digital. So even in direct sunlight you don't get any glare, and it's a very nice screen. As you can see, like half of the screen is in sunlight, half of it is not, and the part that you see that's in direct sunlight doesn't have any issues like some vehicles do. So that's definitely one thing I wanted to point out. But again, to control this screen, we're going to use the page button and the up and down to get more information. Just right off the bat, a very attractive set of digital gauges. We have the large speedometer and tachometer over there, and then our fuel range right down here, instant fuel economy, and then our odometer right down there. So basically in the center of the two large gauges, we have a kind of an information center for all of the driver's assistance features, like lane keeping assist and all that good stuff. If we press the page button, we get down into some information such as our trip settings, and it also drops down to a digital speedometer. Press the page button again, we can get a compass, and then we also have some various information such as your all-wheel drive control and things of that nature. Now, by changing the drive mode, also changes the gauges. So if we switch over to sport, we get definitely a set of more sporty gauges, which is pretty neat. Taking a look up here, we have a nice dashboard, nice flat too, so you get a nice view out of the windshield. Now down here, we're going to take you on a quick tour of the infotainment system. This is kind of a home screen where it kind of displays the date, time, what's going on with the audio screen, and the map. If you swipe it over, we have all of our different apps. If we press on the map, you can see we have built-in navigation, very nice map. And then you can also input the navigation address right there. We have the phone screen, and we also have phone projection for the Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You can also set yourself some voice memos, which is pretty cool, and also access the climate control through the screen. We have a valet mode, quiet mode for if your kids are sleeping in the back. And then we also have our HD radio and regular radio screens right here. I kind of like how it splits the screen between the radio adjustments and your navigation map over here, so that's a pretty cool idea. We have our media and then all of our different setups. So once you purchase the vehicle, you get it home, you can go through all of the setup things and kind of really customize this car to yours. Then we also have notifications and your kind of digital owner's manual, if you will. So pretty nice screen here. We have a couple of different settings too to kind of edit the home screen and turn the display off if you'd like. And then we also have some of your own settings, so you can kind of set up your own user in there, and you can go from there. A couple of air vents below, and in between we have the hazards button. Down here we have a very simple climate control, very easy to use, single zone. We have our temperatures off to this side, as well as our AC and all of your where you want the air to blow buttons right over there. We have our defrosters up top over here, and the recycling versus outside air, and also your fan speed. Two knobs for your volume and tuning. And then we also have some physical shortcuts for the screen up top. Down below we have this kind of upper shelf for some storage, and then a lower portion too, with a couple of power outlets. So you have a 12-volt USB and a USB-C, which is pretty nice. Now we have the gear selector for that continuously variable transmission. You have a little release right over here, and you can bring it down into reverse, which brings up your parking camera. We have neutral, drive, and then of course a sport mode where you can shift manually, which is pretty nice. We also have our drive mode selector, which there are 3 different drive modes, so we can switch between normal, sport, and a smart setting too, which is pretty cool. We of course have our heated seats for up front, both the front driver and passenger. You can also quickly bring up your parking camera at any time. And then a couple of other buttons over here, such as the all-wheel drive lock, so you can kind of lock it into four-wheel drive mode if you know you're going to be in the snow or dirt roads or anything like that. And you also have a hill descent mode too. Down here we have a manual parking brake, which is a nice change. So basically, if those of you who are so tech savvy that all of your cars now have your electronic parking brakes, you just release with this little thing right here and then pull up to activate. So pretty nice to see one of those. I know all the cars that I've had recently have all had electronic parking brakes, and it's nice to see that. So we have a couple of cup holders right next to it, and a nice little pad right here where you can armrest, and some storage inside as well. Nice passenger area with some pretty cool trim, kind of adding to the gloss black is this kind of square design for the trim on the passenger side. The glove box, it has a very good amount of space inside. As you can see, it's all loaded up with the owner's manuals and all that good stuff. If we fold this down, we have a pretty big sun visor with a mirror. And then we also have some LED lights inside, as well as our emergency controls. And let's not forget to mention our rear view mirror. But that pretty much does it for all the features of the Kia Seltos for 2024, in the S trim level that is. Let's get it out on the road and see how it drives. Alrighty, let's get this Kia Seltos out on the road. So again, we are working with the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine and the continuously variable transmission, so I'm kind of excited to see how this continuously variable transmission works. I'm also pretty excited because it's the first Kia video we have done in a long time here on our channel. Now, first things first, let's take it down and do our turning circle test. We'll take it down to this dead end here and see how it does. This will kind of be a good test for if you work in the city, you know, or you visit any sort of city anytime often. This will kind of give you a good idea on maneuverability. And it maneuvers pretty nicely. First impressions on this Seltos is actually pretty quiet. You know, you don't really hear the rumble of the engine all that much, and the transmission, since it's a CVT, is pretty smooth. Yeah, very quiet engine. Now we're gonna get it up onto this main road here, which is kind of like a 2-lane highway, so we'll get a good idea on the sounds that this vehicle produces, so the wind noise, tire noise, things like that. And we also have the start-stop activated for us right now, and it is extremely fast to start back up. Yeah, so the CVT does a pretty good job with this car. I'm pretty impressed with the acceleration power. We will get a full throttle acceleration, so you know exactly what it's like, you know, merging onto a highway and things like that. But just to, you know, merge onto a regular road, it's got, you know, a pretty good pickup. And with the CVT, it definitely keeps the RPMs low on the engine, which in return gets you pretty good fuel economy. And that's really what this transmission is designed to do. Yeah, now that we're up at 50 miles an hour, it is pretty quiet, you know, not a whole lot of tire noise, barely any wind noise, so pretty impressive up at these speeds. And the steering weightens up just slightly, and it feels pretty good up at these speeds. Also a pretty comfortable seating position too. Alright, so we're going to take a right onto this back road here, and that is where we'll do our acceleration test. So what I like to do is kind of get the car up to about 25 miles an hour and then mash the throttle and see how fast we can get up to speed from there. That I find is a pretty good evaluation of the accelerations, because it kind of gives you a chance to evaluate the transmission and the engine all in one. So we have it up to 25 now, and I'm going to floor it here and we'll see what happens. So, really not too bad. You know, I was almost skeptical when I saw the figure of only about 140 horsepower, but when you actually get it out on the road, it is pretty good feeling. So that is pretty impressive. Almost, in effect, acted like a traditional transmission when it went up to, I think it went straight up to about 5,000 RPM, and it did pretty well getting us out of onto that highway ramp. So pretty impressive. Definitely better than I thought it was going to be. Now we have it onto this back road. We'll see how it handles all the turns and elevation change and lots of bumps as well. So we'll get a good evaluation of the suspension on this road. The lane keeping assist is doing a very nice job of keeping me in the lane too. It does slightly tug me back in if it senses that I'm going outside my lane, so that is a pretty nice feature. Yeah, and it seems to handle these dips and weaves in the road very nicely. Pretty impressive suspension setup too. It is pretty comfortable. You know, not a whole lot of noise coming from the tires or anything when we're hitting all these bumps. There is one real nasty road with lots of potholes and things, so that is going to be our next turn. Pretty impressive with the engine. You know, only when you get it up to, you know, 5,000 or 6,000 RPMs, which is really when you're on the throttle, which is, you know, maybe 1% of the time when you're driving a vehicle throughout its whole entire life probably. That is the only time where the engine becomes a little bit noisy. But yeah, pretty settled around corners, and it seems like a pretty nicely set up car. Now this is the pretty nasty part of the road I was telling you about. This is all lots of patchwork and things of that nature. And this road really should be repaved, but it's a good testing ground for us, so we get to see what the suspension is like in the real world. But yeah, pretty impressive and very comfortable suspension, I have to say. Now the comfort of these seats, now that I've been sitting in them for a little while, is pretty comfortable too. I have just enough support for my back, you know, lateral support at least. And the factory lumbar that is set, you cannot change it in this trim level at least, but it is at a pretty good rate as it is already. So. Now, one thing I am slightly noticing is the initial throttle response is a little bit muted. I'm sure that'll get alleviated once you put it into the sport mode. But just one thing I was noticing, you might have to give it a little bit more gas than your traditional, car that you're used to driving to get it off the line. But again, I'm sure that's alleviated once you put it into that sport mode. But yeah, that pretty much does it for the Kia Seltos, both on the features side and on the driving side as well. I hope you have enjoyed this vehicle just as much as I have, and if you are a loyal subscriber, I hope you enjoy the Kia videos to come in future videos. Thank you for watching.